you were looking for career advice from a career coach, and he had led teams that have placed over 6,000 pros in 21 industries, worked at the largest Fortune 500 recruitment firm in the world, was responsible for over $50 million of placements of executives, and was one of the top recruiters recognized nationally while serving in the United States Army, you'd probably say he's qualified. This is the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. Career competition is fierce. If you're a director, a VP, or an executive, this podcast is for you. This is the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. And this is your host, Tim Madden.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi. Just a warning to everybody, I'm a little over-caffeinated and super excited about this topic today. So forewarning, I'm coming in hot. Welcome everyone to the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. I'm Kristina Madden, not Tim Madden with that fancy intro that we're switching next week. Thank you, marketing. If you don't know me, I help those targeting six figures and multiple six figures find jobs they love quickly. We go live every week inside of the Executive Career Network, which is the fastest growing career network on Facebook. Check us out. We now have over 10,000 members. And if you are listening there, I've been giving you guys a nudge every week to engage with us and others. It's a huge network, you guys. I see the approvals coming in. We get new people every day. It's a great place to network. It's a free place to network. It's a free place for information. Hop over there and take advantage. If you're watching over there in the ECN, say hey below. And of course, guys, we stream it to iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and Google. Also live over on LinkedIn. Can't forget that. Do me a favor, if you could, go over and leave us a review on iTunes. I know we say this every week, but if you get something valuable out of this, we don't collect money on this podcast. We're not selling anything on this podcast, but that is how you can pay us. Go over to iTunes, leave a review. If this could help someone in a job search, make sure you share this podcast, or if you're considering one, be sure to share with a friend. It could be exactly what they need to hear in that moment. So that's very important. And finally, what we are celebrating this week, we actually just had a team meeting, and I heard a bunch more stories and excitement about some results this morning. We have someone who landed their dream role at a massive global marketing firm, making approximately $60,000 more per year than the current role. We also have, and I'm the worst, I almost spit out the names. We're not doing that. We protect privacy around here. Kind of stumbling over my words, but director of experiential production was able to hit their target goal of, guys, check this out, unlimited PTO, working from home, as well as the salary target was there. Can you imagine corporate America? Okay, these roles are out there. We also had a testimonial come in. Hey, I would recommend this program to anyone. I followed the steps exactly, and it was worth every penny. We have another data scientist who was able to land their dream role at Deloitte. Shout out to Deloitte. And last on top of mind here is director of IT role that happened through a former ECU member. So there was some networking going on in our community. And they are now the CTO at a company, total comp over 300K. Guys, can we just take a moment of celebration for people making their dreams come true, guys? Because it's not easy. And it ties right into our topic here of imposter syndrome. Okay, obviously these people probably struggled with that, like many of our other clients, and we're able to take some action and pivot out of fear and into a position of power. You can also, if all of that sounds awesome and you're like, hey, forget this podcast, I want to schedule a call with your team, head on over to execupgrades.com/podcast to learn more about how we can help you right now. So let's get into it. Welcome to podcast episode number 80. I can't believe it. Imposter Syndrome and Leadership, Navigating the Challenges. Today you see the gorgeous Bethany Nimmer. She is our VP of Client Success, and she is joining us because she has worked with directors, VPs, and executives for over 15 years of mindset. She's a badass mom. She's just incredible. We're so blessed to have her. Thank you for joining us today, Bethany.
Oh my gosh, it's such an honor. Thank you for having me here. And I'm so excited to discuss this topic today. I think we all struggle with it at one point in our lives.
Even if, guys, if you're listening, you're like, hey, I don't struggle with this. This is like a big, scary topic. This isn't for me. You know, that can't be me. I'm here to tell you we all experience it. So let's start by just talking about what it is. Okay, guys, it's a buzzword right now. You see it all over LinkedIn. There are articles. If you're reading about self-care or mindset or self-development, somewhere along the line, I'm sure you've heard the word. So Bethany, what would you define imposter syndrome as, and how common is it among high-level executives and just people?
Oh my gosh. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your title is, where you've been, what you've done. As we continue to navigate through life and elevate ourselves, imposter syndrome creeps in some shape or form. It's way more common than you think, even among successful executives. I mean, many executives feel like they're not qualified for their role, or that they somehow have been tricking their way into it. God designed us with something called the amygdala. It's the integrative center for emotions, behavior, and motivation. But it was also designed to keep us small. So, this can lead to feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, anxiety, which can oftentimes impact our leadership and cause us to second guess ourselves and hesitate when making decisions. So we have to consciously choose to rewire those thoughts.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the impact it can have just directly on professionals and how they lead when they feel this way, because inadequacy, self-doubt, all of those things cause hesitation in that decision-making skill set that you're talking about. Guys, when we get in a place of defeat and anxiety, what we know about that is we get the hormonal surges, we get the fight or flight response. And when we're in that high emotionally charged state, our intelligence, our IQ literally goes down. High emotion equals low intelligence. And so good decisions typically go out the window. We're not showing up as our truest self, and certainly not leading confidently. So, having known that now, and we know what it is, Bethany, what are some strategies that executives can use to overcome imposter syndrome and feel more confident in their leadership roles?
Yes, absolutely. So one interesting fact about our thoughts is that 92 to 95% of our thoughts are reoccurring each day. So really each day, every time we wake up, it's a conscious choice that we have to make to reframe our thoughts. And our thoughts turn into our actions, and our actions become a habit, and our habits become a belief, and our belief shapes our identity. So, what can we do to reframe our thoughts? What does that look like? Well, instead of focusing, where our focus goes, our energy flows, right? So instead of focusing on our perceived weaknesses or our flaws, we should focus on our strengths and our accomplishments. And one strategy I like to do is writing it out. We can talk about it all day long, but only 7% of what we hear is retained. So writing it out, that bumps it up to at least 35%. So writing out, just some of our goals and our actions and our thoughts that we want to aim towards, and repeating those every single day. And it does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Just a few simple thoughts to really pinpoint back to throughout the day when we're navigating through a challenge. Like, nope, I'm not going to think of it this way. I'm going to think of it this way. So honestly, just reframing our thoughts, writing those out, and being consistent with those. And eventually we'll rewire our whole thinking pattern, which is super cool. And yeah, just throw perfection out the window. Make it simple.
I love that. Listen, this is where people get held up, right? People think that thought work is for like special people, or mindset is for special people. It's for everyone, guys. And when I first started this approach, or some of the strategies Bethany just talked about, it did feel overwhelming, right? And so one of the things I personally did was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to promise myself I'm going to get curious about my thoughts. And just that alone even opened up a window of opportunity for so much more self-discovery. If you're a client listening, or a friend of a client listening, you've probably heard of my TEA, thoughts, emotions, actions. Well, the thoughts that we're having, and like Bethany said, they're repeating themselves every day. So if you want to be better tomorrow, we have to at least get 1% better in noticing our thoughts. because that generates the negative emotional state that you can land in, and then that dictates your actions. And the more that's repeating, I'm just reiterating in a different way what Bethany's saying, the more that's repeating, then it becomes a behavior, then it becomes a belief, and it shapes exactly who you are. So if you want to change who you are, this is where you start. And some of you also might be thinking, wow, that sounds really out there. It might sound a little woo-woo, but guys, I mean, even if you visit some of the Instagram accounts of the greatest mentors out there, Tony Robbins, this is where they start. They start with thought work. And it kind of brings me to my next point, which is when we first launched this program, many of you have heard this story before, we were like, why isn't anyone landing their job? We've got the tactics, we've got the roadmap, we've got the checklist, they've got their network, we've got automated systems and processes. And then it was like, whoa, nobody actually believes it's possible for them. And they're stuck in this self-doubt. And when you go off to an executive level executive level interview, you can't fake it until you make it. You have to have a lot of this in check to really project confidence. Okay, so this, if anything, you want to implement this into your professional life to show up the way that you want to get the job that you want, right? And then it can pour out into your life. You can think of it that way. And our ECU program here includes a comprehensive mindset coaching component that helps our clients make significant shifts in their belief systems, so that way they can show up to these interviews and show up as the leader they want, because we understand that imposter syndrome and self-doubt can affect even the most accomplished executives. If you got a great resume, you look great on paper, it's still possible that you could struggle with this, which is why we encourage our clients to seek help when needed. That was a long-winded response, Bethany, but hey, I had to get it out there.
No, it isn't a very imperative response for people to understand. It's okay to ask for support. It's okay to ask for guidance. I mean, and that's what we here at ECU do. We support, that's what gives us really that step above, right? We support you through the resume process, the interview process, but also the mindset process. Because if our mind isn't clearly defined, how can we create clearly defined actions and outcomes? So that's super important to have those two pieces intertwined and woven together. And, having that mentorship, right? We have mentors in finance, we have mentors in business, having mentors in mindset and mentors to help us elevate our careers is so important for us to keep elevating ourselves.
Exactly. If you ask Tim, he's always saying we've got like mentors for every area. How to keep this healthy, right?
Exactly.
So we've covered some great tips. Now you've got a couple of strategies. You probably have a whole heck of a lot of stuff to think about. Let's shift gears a little bit and go a little deeper into leadership challenges specifically. Mm-hmm. So Bethany, what are some of the biggest challenges that high-level executives face, and how can they navigate them?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest challenges that executives face is managing change, right? Whether it's a merger, a reorganization, or a shift in the market, change can be disruptive and difficult for everyone to navigate. And to overcome this challenge, executives need to be adaptable, proactive, and communicate effectively with their teams. And I mean, this is really almost impossible to do without implementing those mindset strategies and putting action behind them. Like we talked about earlier, leaders are responsible for their people, their beliefs, their goals, their productivity. And as a leader, it's imperative for us to identify and understand our team's limiting beliefs as well. We can help put this work to action in ourselves, but we're also responsible for helping and uplifting and shifting the minds of our teams and creating them to become the most exceptional leaders of themselves as well. Bosses manage, leaders help lead and create other leaders.
I love that you mentioned the, requirement to be so adaptable in these mm-hmm. positions. And when there are big shifts or changes, people tend to go in like right into fight or flight. I used to be this person, and sometimes you still can be. And when you have some of these strategies in place, some of these tactics and tools in your toolbox, you become so much more grounded in who you are. So all of these external factors, or let's say there's a massive layoff, you can pivot and be like, hey, I bet on myself. Like, I have the skill sets to pivot and land another job, or the shifts in the economy, even if that has you guys feeling uncertain. the only way that you can build this confidence or this ability and willingness to bet on yourself is by working the belief system. I was talking to our SVP of sales this week about this concept that we're so wired up to want like external factors to be giving us this confidence. Like we need to be successful before we can feel a new belief, right? We want to have, we want to be selling a lot, and then we can have the confidence that we're a great salesperson, or we want to have the perfect team before we can believe that we're a leader, a great leader. But the truth of the matter, and this is a hard pill to swallow, guys, sometimes, that you have to have the beliefs in place in order to feel confident, not the other way around. Do you want to comment on that, Bethany?
Yeah, absolutely. I think therein lies kind of that emptiness within people where we're continuously looking for external validation when we need to go internal. We need to realize everything that we have within us is there. It just may not be showing up to its highest potential. So rather than looking for external validation and, deposit, I call them like coin deposits, right? Somebody gives us a compliment or somebody uplifts us and it goes into our coin purse. But really, if there's a hole in there, it's just going to fall right through and keep going. You need to do the internal work to make sure you're whole and complete internally and create that validation through your knowledge of really who you are, your integrity, your values, and be so solid in those as a leader that no matter what people say to you, you can either absorb it or you can let it just bounce off, right? Because you're so solid in the knowledge and the belief of who you are.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And Rita, you're right about the soft skills. And a lot of that comes into play with managing people as well. In fact, one of the skills that I learned over the last several years can be marketed as soft skills, but now understanding its impact, I see what like a hardcore, like non-negotiable tactic it really is, which is really, really understanding team building within a company. So me being the chief people officer at Executive Career Upgrades, I've obviously had some experience now building a team and what the mindset it takes to really build a team. And really the root of that, the core of that, is being so personally invested in everyone's goals. Not being, anything you can do, unless it's opportunity for my team or opportunity for my clients, I really want nothing to do with it, right? So that's really what we're focused on. And I just wanted to comment on the soft skills there, being invested in people's personal, professional, financial goals, and then understanding the belief systems of the team and how we can influence people to change their beliefs and understand more as possible. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really helpful. And I'm curious, do you have any standout client success stories at ECU that you'd be open to sharing with your audience?
Yeah, great question. In fact, I kept some notes. We've had a number of clients that were really stuck repeating. Actually, let me rephrase that. Almost every client we work with, guys. So let's just normalize this. Like if you're sitting there thinking like, this is horrible, like I do experience this, imposter syndrome haunts me every day. My a piece of advice would be to completely normalize the experience. Great comments. I will definitely touch on those. Hard saying no to employees. My comment back to that would be, great leaders aren't really personally invested in wanting to be well liked, right? And so that's a whole other conversation, Tanisha, but you are not alone. That comes up a lot. So most clients that come into our ecosystem, our environment that we coach, are stuck repeating old behavior in this really exciting new world. But with our program, we've been able to help them break free from the chains, guys. And it's that intense. It can feel like you are chained, right? In self-doubt and imposter syndrome. So take Kelly, for example, as a chief operating officer. She invested in herself and followed a step-by-step program, which enabled her to land a job in renewable energy at a technology company that she loves. And as Kelly put it herself, you guys built the bridge to give me strength and take my weaknesses and make it an attribute. And that's really the name of the game, that bridge. And then there's Sam, Chief Technology Officer, who spent 8 years without having to do an interview at the executive level. Can you imagine, guys? 8 years, and then you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get prepared for this interview? Our program helped him level up in his career with a role that was created specifically for him. That's another thing to remember, guys. These roles are being created. So if you're stuck on these job boards where you're typically not going to find these jobs, just remember the most exciting roles, many of them are being created. And we're passionate about providing the tools and resources to help our clients shine a light on their own professional greatness. With our help, you can overcome imposter syndrome and break free from these old habits and reach new heights in your career. I could talk about landing a job all day, but this is what is really helping people make a huge change in their life.
Absolutely. Wow. These are amazing examples of how effective guidance can truly make a difference in people's lives. And I'm so happy we get to do that on a daily basis.
I know. How lucky are we? Tim said on Sunday, he's like, yeah, I'm relaxing with the family, and then I'm ready to put on my boxing gloves and get in there and go into the ring with myself, with the world, because we understand, guys, that a lot of this can be a battle. If you do not have a great mindset to keep you grounded, it's going to be very difficult to get into that boxing ring, right? Imposter syndrome and leadership challenges are normal and common, but they don't have to hold you back. With the right mindset, as I said, strategies and support, executives can overcome these challenges and thrive in their roles. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Seek out resources to help you become the best leader you can be. Any last comments before I wrap us up, Bethany?
I think we did cover some great strategies, and I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to help others through, these podcasts. But there's just so much more in-depth content out there that I'm so happy we're able to provide, and the success stories. So let's just keep going.
Every week I tell Tim, this topic really needs a part 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
But again, guys, just get curious about what this means to you. Get curious about your thoughts and how they're creating your emotions and actions and full-on belief systems, and where those belief systems are stopping you. Because there's so much more available to you. So today we learned that successful executives often struggle with imposter syndrome, which can lead to feelings of self-doubt and hesitation in your role. Yuck. We don't like that. We don't love that. However, Bethany and I have shared effective strategies to overcome imposter syndrome, including focusing on strengths, reframing our thoughts, reworking these beliefs, seeking support, and asking for help when needed. Guys, get the mentor. We also discussed common leadership challenges, such as managing change, managing people. And I'm just going to comment one more time on this people thing. If you do not have your beliefs in check and you don't believe great things, you cannot influence people to perform in these roles. So if you're wondering and you think, wow, I have big people problems in this organization, you have to take a hard look at yourself. And if you haven't had the conversation yet or in a long time about your core values and where you're headed, are there any books recommended to read? Hey, I have a book coming out on this pretty soon. Then I'll be able to plug one in here. Bethany, is there a great book you recommend to read on imposter syndrome?
Oh, wow. Really anything by Dr. Amen is really great. He talks a lot about the brain. It's more from a scientific standpoint on rewiring our brain for success. I wish I had one at the top of my mind in particular.
Let's see. So Tim and I live and die by anything Grant Cardone. Okay. He's pretty much going to whip you into shape around what you believe is possible and how to break out of that pretty quickly. I love Jay Shetty. He has great perspective. Think Like a Monk is a great one. That's a little out of alignment with like my spiritual beliefs, but he has an incredible mind. I love him. The High Five Habit, anything by Mel Robbins. Go over and give Mel Robbins a follow on Instagram. She talks a lot about self-sabotage. Meanwhile, while I'm at it, go ahead and head over there and follow me on Instagram at Coach Kristina Madden, Kristina with a K, and Tim at Coach Tim Madden, and our executive upgrades page, which is at executive. Oh gosh. My VP of marketing is probably listening to me thinking, "Oh my God, you didn't say it right." I know I forget our IG handle.
That's imposter syndrome right there. Stop it.
Executive Career Upgrades is what it is. So the IG handle at Executive Career Upgrades. And what you'll find on there is a lot of testimony of clients and what they've experienced with self-limiting beliefs and how they've used our tactics and strategies on how to break through. And so before I continue ranting, because this was supposed to be a sort of in conclusion, if you are looking to land a new career or you need some additional help, or you're like, hey, I want to talk to one of you guys about my mindset, make sure you schedule your free career consult with one of our executive advisors at execupgrades.com /podcast. Again, that is execupgrades.com /podcast. And I won't take up any more of your time. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon.